Thad Brown here with you. This is the BKL Nightly Game Day Recap. The Bills absolutely stunned in Miami, 30-13. I'll be on. Caleb Carr will join me later. We'll have Sean McDermott live, Josh Allen live postgame. We have a whole lot to talk about in the next hour, taking you up until about 5 o'clock. Look, bottom line, this was an utter disaster for the Bills. Absolute, unmitigated issue that you almost look at this team and wonder how they possibly could come back from it. There will be other games. They're probably still going to the playoffs. This is inexcusable. Top to bottom, there is no one who will be left out from this. This goes right from Brandon Beane all the way on down to the long snapper, Reed Ferguson, who I thought had a decent game. Josh Allen is 100% included. This is everybody. No one will be escaping from the blame in this game. This is not a team who is going to have a realistic chance to go to the Super Bowl. Not the one that played today. There are no excuses for what happened out there. Now, look, in a lot of ways, this was a perfect storm. Everything that could have gone wrong for the Bills early in this game did. A lot of it was their fault, but everything went against them in this game. Obviously, you open with the interception by Cole Bishop. Nice play. Really was an arm punt, whatever. You essentially force a 3-and-out in the Dolphins' opening drive. After that, the Bills go 3-and-out. Okay, first time all year they've punted on the first drive. That happens. From there, long Dolphins drive. Then it was a 4th down play call. Absolute mistake by Joe Brady. After that, couple punts. Bills are going in. James Cook fumble. I'm sorry, the 4th down play call. And then you had the big play by the Dolphins. Something Miami can do. Look, it doesn't have to be Tyreek Hill all the time. We know the Dolphins are capable of this. So 4th down mistake, deep ball, then the fumble by James Cook. Then it starts to pour. So your offense can't do anything. You give up a field goal in there at 16-0. Second half, you open with exactly what you needed out of the Bills offense. You needed a big-time drive to go straight down the field. They get exactly that. And then you get to the end zone, and your franchise quarterback F's up. That's just a mistake on him. Yeah, there's probably some miscommunication with Dawson Knox. Regardless, that's not a ball you can throw there. Yeah, you're probably not kicking a field goal in that spot. Maybe you are. It's still 6 minutes to go in the third quarter. But as a quarterback, you can't just fling one and hope your guy makes a play. Either you're going for it in 4th down or you're kicking a field goal. You throw that one out of bounds if you're not sure. That's on Josh Allen. I'm sure there's more blame to go around. That's on Josh Allen. Now you hang in the game, and you're still in it in the 4th quarter after a stop from your defense. You get another Max Harrison interception in there. And then Josh Allen fumbles again, another turnover. So everything, after the Bills get to a touchdown, everything that could have gone wrong for the Bills leading to this upset loss happened. Everything, if you want to check boxes for all the different stuff that happened, you had weather go against you. Obviously, you had injuries go against you. We'll talk about that too. You come into this game with only 4 healthy defensive ends, really 3.5, because Joey Bosa is playing with a bum wing. And then Landon Jackson goes down basically right after the kickoff. So now you're playing with 3.5. You start with 3.5 defensive ends, you're down to 2, and you have to do that for 57 minutes of the game or whatever it was. Injuries, turnovers, mistakes, and the turnovers were by your elite players. This wasn't like Jackson Hawes putting the ball on the ground or Elijah Moore fumbling on an end around. This was Josh Allen and James Cook giving the ball away. Coaches got outcoached. Players got outplayed. Everybody looked exhausted because of how hot it was and because of how much time they spent chasing around the Dolphins. Run D was bad again. Offensive weapons bad again. You wonder why Brandon Beane was in front of the microphone on Wednesday looking as down as I can ever remember him talking to the media not after a season-ending loss. He didn't say it, but without saying it, he told you that he didn't think this roster was good enough. That's why he worked so hard at the trade deadline. And you saw all the flaws on display in this game. On top of a couple extra ones with your, like I said, elite top-of-the-line players turning the ball over at every single time was a key spot. I mean, all of them were on the plus side of the field. 2 of them were in guaranteed points range, assuming Matt Prater doesn't miss a kick. So your depth failed you. Your young players failed you, except Cole Bishop, who I think had a solid game. We'll talk about him a little bit later. I know Max Harrison had an interception, but he obviously got roasted on the first touchdown. We'll talk about that too. But again, This was a top to bottom, unmitigated disaster for the Bills. And with the Patriots winning, let me make sure that game is still going the way I thought it was going. New England's up 5 with, are they taking, yeah, that game's done. So the Bills are now a game and a half out in the AFC East. The Patriots currently have the division, or the tiebreaker, I should say. And we'll talk a little bit later on, too, about where this division stands in terms of the race and what the Bills would have to do to turn this thing around. But Buffalo has dug themselves a hole unlike they've ever had in the AFC East. And the problem is that as bad as this loss to Miami is, the New England win over Tampa Bay is probably equally as hurtful when you start looking at what the Patriots have left on their schedule and compared to what the Bills have left. I mean, we thought this game for the Bills was going to be a walk. I was just joking with Caleb. If Miami had scored one more touchdown, I would have gotten the score correct in my prediction, just the wrong team. Nothing good about what was going on in that game. All right. We're going to have a lot more to talk about this, but Josh Allen's already talking to me. Let's go to him right now.
So the first 2 drives just didn't really set us up great. But again, it comes down to execution, and we didn't execute.
What happened on that interception?
I was trying to get it to Shavers, the deep in cut, and just wasn't really able to step into it. They brought 0. Really didn't allow myself to step into the throw.
Do you feel like the game plan that was put in place put your guys in a position to be successful?
I think so. Again, it starts with me, but we didn't execute. I didn't execute.
I know you're able to hit Keon for that 35-yard touchdown in the fourth quarter, but why is it, in your estimation, been so difficult to push the ball down the field early in the game and then certainly earlier in the year, too?
I got to give guys chances.
Do you feel like Keon is doing enough with the chances that he's been getting?
I mean, got one today. So, yeah. I guess.
All right, Josh Allen speaking to the media a couple minutes ago. Wouldn't be surprised if we didn't miss much of that. Usually after a loss like that, it's not going to be a long conversation. Caleb Carr joining me right now. One of the things we did hear from Josh Allen at the end there, Caleb, was the response to the question about Keon Coleman. And he said, I got to give my guys chances. What he's telling you there, and we've heard a couple press conferences from Josh right now after losses, where he's not throwing his team under the bus, his offensive group under the bus, but he is pointing out their flaws. As he said, I have to give my guy chances. Not because he's earned them. Maybe he wants to look at it that way. He doesn't have any other choice. If you don't let your receivers occasionally make some plays for you, you're not going to survive in this league when the Bills don't run the ball like they did today. So just real quick before we get back into the overall of the game, we heard a little bit of Josh Allen right there. Give me your thoughts on the couple minutes we heard from Josh at the end of this game.
I mean, I agree with you that, and I agree with him that the way to look at it of I have to give them chances, you gave them chances. I mean, Shakir had 9 targets. He got 7 receptions. Coleman had 8 targets with 3 receptions for 46 yards and a touchdown. You gave him chances. Now, granted, a couple of those chances were they were 50-50 balls. And the definition of a 50-50 ball is you're only going to come down with it 50% of the time.
Well, yes and no. I mean, that's
even less most of the time.
Yeah, but look, some guys are better at it than others. Yeah. And more to the point, Keon Coleman's calling card is supposed to be 50-50 catches.
Yes.
Go ahead,
and
continue.
He only had, I think, one of 3 or 4 of those. There were a couple down the left-hand sideline throughout the game. One of them resulted in a touchdown. One of them was a little bit behind him. And then another one, the defender made a decent play. But I think Josh Allen gave Coleman those chances. I agree that maybe they can be better chances, but in order for them to be better chances, Coleman's got to get open. Coleman's got to give Allen a chance to give him better chances. You know, like one of the things that I think Khalil Shakir actually did decent today was give Allen an opportunity to give him chances. You know, you see that 4th and, was it 15 or 16 towards the end of the game, before the Jackson Haas touchdown at the end. The
great scramble play where Josh Allen did Josh Allen good things. Yeah.
Shakir, moved around and he got open for Allen. He positioned himself. He kind of boxed out the defender and he gave Allen a place to throw the ball. I get that Keon Coleman's calling card is the 50-50. And so
supposed to be. He doesn't really have a calling card right now. That's the problem.
But yeah, exactly. Right now he's not catching those 50-50 balls. So Coleman's got to do something else if he wants to capitalize on those chances. He has to be there for Allen. And although I agree that, you have to use your weapons no matter how good or bad they are. And right now the Buffalo Bills weapons outside of James Cook look like a set of some of the worst in the league. You still have to use them, because you can't just do it all yourself if you're Josh Allen. Mm-hmm. But I don't think he's going to put the blame on himself. Obviously, that's what you want your leader quarterback to do. But it's definitely not all on him. Not even close.
No, but he's a part of this too. And he said so. He said, look, it starts with me. I got to get better. Mm-hmm. And I would not expect anything less from Josh Allen. He's not going to look at this game and sugarcoat it and, try and push anything off on someone else. He's going to take the blame himself, because he deserves part of this blame. Let's start rolling through some of the different issues in this game. Yeah. First, I'm going to start with, just because I wrote it down first, is the injuries, because they were a factor in this game. Like I said at the beginning, you come into this game with only 4 defensive ends that are healthy. That's fine. But Joey Bosa, as we saw, is playing with a bum wing. Probably wasn't in the 70 to 80% range, gutting it through. So maybe you came into this game with 3.5 defensive ends. You lose Landon Jackson right away. Now you're playing the whole game, not only down a body, but really you got like 2.5 solid defensive ends. Dalton Kincaid, had a nice first half, doing Dalton Kincaid things, finding space. What do you end up with? 2 catches for 37. So making plays, being available, and then he pulls the hamstring and he was out for the second half. This is the larger point that we'll get to in a minute about where the Bills are in terms of pass catchers. Once Dalton Kincaid was done, it seemed like they had nothing but Khalil Shakir dump-offs.
And that's not even, you talk about those two, or you talk about Joey Bosa coming in kind of 50-50, and then you had Landon Jackson and Dalton Kincaid. That doesn't even mention the fact that
I was getting the rest of them.
Benford,
yeah, guys who didn't play at the beginning.
Guys who didn't even come in, who were out at the start of the game.
Right.
And I don't want to. Obviously, you have no clue what happens if Benford's in the game, but you got to think that he maybe has a little bit better coverage than Maxwell Harrison had on a couple of those plays. You got to think that maybe he's there to disrupt a little bit of that run game with his tackling ability. Like, you got to think if Joey Bosa is 100%, he has a little bit more of an impact. But obviously, we're not here to play the what if game, but I think injuries definitely had a big part on this game.
For sure. Now, to be fair, Terrell Bernard and Matt Milano both played in this game.
Yes.
You had one of your starting corners out there. I know, Max Harrison's game 3, and it's hard to put him in that spot. And frankly, what happened on the Jalen Waddle play is probably what should happen to a rookie facing Jalen Waddle for the first time. You can't excuse it, but it is what it is. Obviously, you're missing a safety, but you're not getting Taylor Rapp back this year, so this is how we're going to play. At defensive tackle, you're down Ed Oliver, but that ship has sailed for the most part, at least in the regular season. You got to figure out a way to get around without him. You had Daquan Jones back. I don't know how many snaps he played, but there wasn't much of an impact. Larry Ogunjobi and Deion Walker and Fedarius Mathis. I mean, these guys just aren't good enough. That's what we're seeing right now. And as much as I've liked Deion Walker's start, and there are flash plays, he even had flash plays, I think, in this game, too.
I was going to say, he had a few decent plays. It's just the
pass breakup and 1 tackle officially on the stats.
It's just the consistency. He had a couple plays where he had he disrupted
penetration.
It seemed like he had he had some plays that didn't show up on the stat sheet. Is what I'm trying to say, but he definitely wasn't consistent enough to be that reliable starting defensive tackle that the Bills need him to be right now.
For who you're going to play on defense the rest of the year. So we can't talk about Taylor Rapp.
Yep.
We can't talk about Ed Oliver. Mm-hmm. Those guys are gone.
Yep.
You got to figure this out. They were missing Christian Benford and your 4th best defensive end. Am I missing anybody there? Right?
Yeah.
And I mean, TJ Sanders at some point will come back, but he's not a factor right now. So it wasn't like they had 17 guys hurt. Now, where they had the injury at defensive end hurt because it was compounding a player who's already playing through some stuff. Here's the thing about injuries. Who was hurt on the offense? For the whole first half, the answer was nobody. And how many points did they have at halftime? Also a 0.
0.
So injuries are a factor. There's no doubt about that. And I'm sure in the Miami Heat, everything got exacerbated. The Bills sit the whole time, their sidelines in the sun. I'm sure it was a rough day. But injuries only go so far of the way. Here's another thing I want to get to. This is kind of an in-the-weeds stat. We talked about this a little while ago. Dolphins had 5 scoring drives in this game. 2 of them were kind of garbage-ish time, whatever. Of all those 5 scoring drives, only 2 times did they face third down. 2 times did the defense even get them to third down. That includes the 92-yarder. They had the first set of downs. Miami got the third down, and then after that, didn't get the third down the rest of the game. Do you want to help your injury situation? You got to get your defense off the field. And the Bills couldn't even get the third down on that long drive. They couldn't get the third down, obviously coming out of the, after the fourth down stop, that became, almost like a change of possession thing. Give the Dolphins credit. You talk about a change of possession, right? You want to take that big shot after a fumble. The Dolphins did it coming out of a quarter, which I think can have the same impact. You're not in the flow of the game. You just had a long break. It's not a change of possession, but it was a couple plays ago, a change of possession. Another part of this is that the Dolphins coaches had a way better plan than the Bills plan was. And last week, I thought the Bills plan was a big part of what beat the Chiefs. In this game, the Bills plan was a big part of what lost it to Miami. Like I said, we're going to sit here and go through everything. Everything gets a little piece of this. But the defense not even getting close to getting off the field was a big part. Caleb, the Bills, I think, let me see if it held up. Bills defense, who had been, they came into this game 14th in the NFL in third down defense, which for them is really good. This is a team that's usually languished down in the 28 area.
Yeah.
Today, they stopped 6 of 9 third downs. That number is only going up. Their third defense got better. Third down defense got better. And yet they gave up 30 points and a gazillion yards.
Well, because there were only 9 third downs.
Right.
Which still isn't, it's not a low number, but when, like you said, on the one long drive, it was 1 third down. When you're not getting them to third downs, then it doesn't matter. Even if you're stopping a few third downs here or there, what would you say, 6 of 9?
6 of 9 is what they stopped, yeah. So Miami was 3 of 9 on third down.
That's still very good, but like you said, when they're not getting to those third downs, how many second down conversions do they have?
Yeah.
That's not really a stat that we track, obviously, because it doesn't matter that much. But if you go back and take a look at that, I'm sure that number is through the roof.
Exactly.
So it's good. It's that 6 of 9 is like a good thing to look at and be like, okay, at least this area, like when we're in this situation, when you're in this situation, you're looking at it this way, that's good. But when you look at what else happened and the outside numbers, it really doesn't matter that much for this game specifically.
Staying on the defensive side of the ball, look, the Bills' run D has been bad. It stayed bad. Now, Devon Achane, he had 174 yards total. Of that, the touchdowns, I'm going to assume were like about half it. Let me just get the number there. The last 2 TDs were 35 and 59, so that's going to be 94 of 174. So he had 80 before that. Yeah. Now, he was not a factor, and he had 51 receiving yards. Mm-hmm. So before those late put away TDs, he still had 100 total yards. So, one of the keys to the game for the Bills in this one had to be containing Devon Achane. And they didn't not contain him. Like, it wasn't like he dominated the game. When he needed to put the game away, he did. Mm-hmm. So for the duration of the 60 minutes, the answer is a resounding no. But even while the game was still 16-6 and the Bills were in this, Devon Achane was pretty darn successful.
Yeah, I definitely had the thought kind of early in this game that there were a lot of reasons why the Bills were losing. Mainly, in my opinion, at least at first, it was mainly the offense was the main reason. But
yeah, we're going to get to that too.
Yeah, I did think though that there was a point where I was like, okay, at least the run game doesn't look bad, because up to this point,
the run D, you mean?
The run defense, yeah. Because up until the bye week, that was the thing. Like, you look back at the Falcons game, you look at the Patriots game, you even look back to like the Ravens game, week 1. That was the thing that you look at this defense and you're like, oh my gosh, they can't stop the run to save their lives. They just not at all. That and third down defense. But there was a point in this game early on where I was like, okay, it looks like Devon Achane is getting not shut down, but at least slowed down. But the problem was when it mattered, when you needed to put the game away. I mean, listen, it was a long shot, but the Bills had a chance. They were down 10.
On the first one they did.
On the first one, they were down 10. It was third and...
I'll give it to you right now. So situation was 2nd and 7, Miami 41, 6:31 to go. Well, it was 16-6. So yeah, if you get a stop there, mm-hmm. you're going to get the ball back with 5.5 minutes to go, all 3 timeouts down 10. We've seen Josh Allen do ridiculous things. I mean, that scenario is not as bad as what the Ravens scenario was, where the Bills already won a game this year. No. So in that spot, yeah, you're still in the game where a stop gives you an opportunity.
What was the touchdown? The 55. What play were you? What situation are you looking at?
6:31 to go.
Yeah.
16-6.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
2nd and 7 at the 41.
Yeah, they had just given up the fumble.
Yep, that was the Josh Allen sneak fumble.
Yeah, but then even with the second touchdown that he had, the 36-yard touchdown, you're down 10 at that point with, 3 minutes to go, just over 3 minutes to go. And it was 3rd and 8. 3rd and 8, you force a field goal there. Now you're down 13 with about 3 minutes to go. And it's not game over yet. Again, it's a long shot, but it's not game over. And you let up another touchdown, another Devon A-Chain touchdown. So when it mattered for both of those situations, the second down 10, 16-6, and then the down 23-13, you give up 2 touchdowns on those 2 situations. And I mean, you stop either of those and you at least give Josh Allen a chance. Now, obviously, an interception and a fumble earlier in the game, who knows what's going to happen, but you got to at least give your offense a shot here, no matter how bad they've been playing throughout the game. And I mean, I get it. It's end of the game. It's hot down there. They were tired. They're down a few guys, but
listen to this. So you brought up like still had a chance. We're going back to the Ravens game, right?
Yeah.
So I was comparing situations. It's not identical, all right? But when the ball is snapped on the 35-yard touchdown run, the Bills are down 23-13. So it's a 2-score game, right? With 3:17 to go. In the Ravens game, now they were down 8, but as it turned out, the Bills needed 2 scores, right? They forced the fumble with 3:10 to go. It's virtually the same situation.
yeah.
So if you get a stop there on 3rd and 8, even if they kick a field goal, which we were debating if Miami would even try that,
Yeah.
there's still a chance there that you can get those 2 scores. You just need, barring a field goal attempt, which I don't think Miami does at the 41-yard line.
I would assume they try to punt to put it
Yeah, that's what we were thinking about.
Set them up within their
Not
own 10-yard
worth
line,
diving
but
into.
no.
They're at the 35. They could have kicked the field goal. Regardless, you have a chance there.
Yeah.
And the defense didn't do it.
It's a long shot, but who knows if they can replicate the week 1, because we've talked so much about how just crazy that game was. So I don't know if they can do that, especially with how the offense was looking before. But again, you have to at least put the ball back in your MVP quarterback's hands.
One more thing on the defensive side before we kind of flip to the offense. Still waiting for Sean McDermott, by the way. Max Harrison gave up the long touchdown. Look, he got whooped. There's no way to talk around that. And it happens. You know, this is a young guy. To be honest, I looked at the Malik Washington touchdown. That might be a Cole Bishop mistake. I can't tell. Now you got Dane Jackson over the top. I don't know if he's supposed to be further inside. Jordan Poyer was chasing. I don't know if he's supposed to be further, towards the Cole Bishop side. Cole Bishop's coming down on a tight end, which in general didn't seem like the logical play, because you can still make a tackle there and stop them short of the goal line, even if you're protecting deeper. Now it might be 3rd and goal at the 1, which, on a second down play, giving up the 7-yard reception might be almost as bad as giving up the touchdown, but it's not as bad. So either way, certainly one young guy in the secondary is responsible for 1 touchdown, maybe 2 for 2. We talked about Cole Bishop while we were watching the end of the game here. I think played decent otherwise. But for Max Harrison, even though he had an interception in this game, it's going to be hard to look at this game and think, wow, the Bills don't have any problem with Max Harrison in the game, because Jalen Waddle kind of showed you where the problems can be.
Yeah, and even with the interception, we were talking a little bit during it that honestly, that was more of a motivational boost to Maxwell Harrison just getting the ball in his hands. It was an arm punt by Tua. Like we were talking, like that was and both of Tua's interceptions honestly were arm punts. The first one to Bishop was just, let's just get it out there. And especially late in the game to the Maxwell Harrison one, that's just a situation where it's like, let's see if Waddle can make a play. He's made some plays for you so far this game. Let's see if he can make another play on the rookie. And if he doesn't, then they're set up deep in their own territory and you're fine. And then it ended up being even deeper because of a blindside block.
Yeah.
So like,
you give Harrison credit. He made that second play.
He made the play.
He's in good position. He made the catch.
Yes.
Cool. But overall, this was not an up game for number 31.
No, I do like the fact that he got the pick, because I do think that 3rd game of his career, he's now got 2 interceptions. Just keep boosting that motivation.
He does walk away with a good feeling, that's for sure. Not overall because of a loss, but in terms of individually,
yeah. But the one to Jalen Waddle was just like you said, just getting beat, and you bring him in to be that speed. I was hoping that he would maybe be able to close that gap a little bit sooner. And then the pass interference too that he had, it didn't really matter because Waddle made a great catch. But it all stems
to the fact he got beat at the top of the route. All right. If you want to get yourself involved in this conversation, I'm on X at Thad Brown 7. Posted a little while earlier that we are doing the post-game show. Got some comments coming in. Just if you hear anything you want to respond to, let me know. Most of these are going to sound pretty similar. But Stephanie Ann, how can we look great one week and horrible the next? I know injuries plague the defense, but no excuse for the offense. Something going on with Josh. Has he hit a wall? I'll answer that one. I don't think anything is wrong with Josh. He played a bad game. part of this is too, and we talked about this at different times during the year, the Bills had a bunch of fumbles last year, recovered almost all of them. An 86% recovery rate on your own fumbles is like flipping a coin 10 times and having to come up tails 9. You know, you're not going to get that rate of the ball bouncing your way to continue, and that's what we've seen. They lost 2 fumbles against New England, lost 2 fumbles in this game, lost to a really bad team. Those things were going to turn around at some point, and it's unfortunate for the Bills that when it has turned around, it has been death blow after death blow with the lost fumbles. But to the point about Josh, I think we've seen that when the run game doesn't get going, and we haven't talked about that yet, we'll hit on it, and you force him to win this game on his own with the group he's got around him, you're opening the door for mistakes.
Yeah, in the past, it's the Bills' offense outside of last year before was very Josh Allen being Superman. Like it was just rely on Josh Allen. And the reason you could do that was because you had guys like even James Cook was younger. He was still a decent running back. You still had you had Stephon Diggs. At that point, you had a Gabe Davis who was playing decent. Like you had other weapons around him that were decent enough that he could just be Superman. And it would be fine. But we'll check out Sean McDermott.
Complimentary game. We came out, started slow. I think we had 4 or 5 3-and-outs there in the first half. Picked it up a little bit in the second half, turned the ball over. Defensively, I thought we did some good things. And then we gave up 2 big runs towards the end there. So a lot to work on, a lot to improve. So we learned from it.
Sean, on Wednesday, Brandon said he believed that the roster was of championship quality or championship caliber. After a performance like that, what is your confidence level that is indeed the case?
I love these players. I do. I love the guys in that locker room.
Why do you think, and a couple of the guys mentioned coming out flat, for lack of a better term, or maybe just not ready at the start the way they needed to be, given where you guys are in the standings in the playoff race, where they are, quite frankly, at 2-7, how does that happen against a team like that, knowing the situation that you guys are in?
Well, it's a week-to-week league. You got to bring your A game every week. We talk about that a lot. We really do. And we work our tails off during the week to come out, to your point, and play better and coach better and perform better overall. It didn't happen.
You had said during the week that you had liked the attitude that you had seen, particularly from the bye week to now, that you had seen an improvement in that regard. Do you feel like that took a step backwards today?
Yes.
Coach, you always talk about, it starts up front battle of the line of scrimmage. What were your observations of the line of scrimmage battle?
And it's not that, Jay, it's not that the guys weren't trying out there. That's not what I'm saying, and that's not what I was alluding to before the bye. It's come out and control the game early and play a certain way with a certain style, and we didn't do that today. And so that's why we got the result we got, especially in the first half. And then we're chasing the game. They were in control of the game for the first half, and then in the second half we were chasing the game, which is a hard way to play. And I thought we made some plays in the second half, not enough. And then we turned the ball over 3 times. It's tough to win in the NFL when you turn the ball over 3 times. So I want to make sure you understand the context of what I was saying.
Line of scrimmage is what you talk about a lot. It starts up front. Just what were your observations on both sides of the ball there at the line of scrimmage?
They got the run game going early and wanted to control the game. And I thought then we calmed it down a little bit in the second quarter and beyond. And then 8 minutes to go, I think roughly they have 16 points. It's second down and I believe 7, second 6, second 7, something like that. And they pop a run. And then pretty much the game was over after that. So I thought the defense battled. We lose Landon there and playing DQ out at end a little bit to help us. Got some guys banged up, but no excuses. We battled. Those guys were battling. And then, like I said, I think we were down 10 at that point, and then they popped the run. So just trying to get the ball back. So it looked like we had somebody in the hole right there, and he's elusive. A-Shane, give him credit.
What did you make of Josh's day?
I made some Josh-style plays. He made some amazing plays, which he does. Just overall as an offense, it's never one person. Just getting off to a faster start, in a rhythm, controlling the line of scrimmage, being a 2-dimensional offense. So got to look at the tape, but just moving the chains. Got to move the chains in order to keep the defense off the field. I think we had the ball 5 or 6 times in the first half. I think 4 or 5 of those drives, 9 minutes total maybe, with between those drives, which is we're not holding the ball long enough. So we got to look at the film and figure out why we're not moving the chains enough right there, and doing so controlling the game.
There are going to be times when you get behind the sticks on offense. What do you need to see from your group that allows you to overcome those situations? Because it's been a through line in the games where you guys have struggled offensively.
Right, so first identifying what is causing us to get behind the sticks. Is it penalties? Is it negative plays and how they're being created? And then secondly is getting back on track. It's hard to convert 3rd and 11 plus in this league, and so you've got to get yourself back on schedule. How you do that is by game plan, depending on how the defense presents itself. But just too many 3rd down and longs and one-dimensional type situations.
Sean, I know you end up putting up numbers offensively as it goes along, but was the passing game good enough for most of the game when the running game maybe wasn't?
Yeah, I'm not worried about numbers. I'm not worried about numbers. Those aren't real numbers. I'm worried about moving the ball, controlling the game, playing our style of football on a more consistent basis, and that's what we got to make sure we get back to.
Sean, granted that you have to watch today's game back on film, but even before this, I think the passing offense has had a difficulty moving the ball in chunks down the air. So have you been able to put your finger on why that is and why you have been able to go to it when you kind of needed it too?
Again, just consistency, rhythm, I think, overall. I feel like, Joe, in order to really dissect today's performance, I'd have to look at it. But I felt like there were some things and there were some times where we weren't open. So it's a combination of the two, right? So it's, again, never one thing. And Mike, going back to your question, not mean to cut you off, it's just I'm not really into yards. I'm into real yards in the meat of the game and moving the football. And we didn't do a good enough job there.
Sean, you mentioned the injury to Landon. What happens last week to Hoyt, you understand comes with playing football.
Yeah.
The number of guys you've had out, though, because of soft tissue stuff, hamstrings, groins, calves, has that been problematic for you, and is that something that organizationally you need to take a look at to prevent as much as is preventable, as possible?
Yeah, and I said this, Jay, when you guys were asking me about the trades on, was it Wednesday or so, and you always want quality players. They help you, right? And the more we kind of get into the injuries and some of the guys that are going out, you go down the depth chart. And so I appreciate the way that guys have stood up and stepped in and taken advantage of their opportunities. But you're knocking down, you're getting down the list on there. So, but we will never use injuries as an excuse. We do need to continue to turn over every stone to figure out why this is happening. I feel like it's happened quite a bit year to year. This year is probably as much as I've been around. So, I don't know I don't know what it is. I really don't. But we got to figure that piece out pretty quickly here, and then year to year.
It's a bit frustrating to have not, hammered down as to why the passing offense hasn't been able to get it going consistently. I mean, you're now through week 10 and encroaching on the end of the season here. So is that a frustrating facet for you?
Well, it is, because it's an important part of our offense. We've got a great quarterback, and you want to be able to move the ball two-dimensionally, and we should be able to move the ball with Josh through the air. But it can't just be one phase of your offense. It's got to be two working, in concert with one another. So you guys know I say this quite a bit. It starts up front with the line of scrimmage, controlling the line of scrimmage early, and that sets up other things. So that's what I look at first: is are we controlling the line of scrimmage, and then how does that set up our passing game? So they go hand in hand.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right, Sean McDermott addressing the media just now. Thad Brown, Caleb Carr, we're with you talking postgame after Bills and Dolphins. And a lot of the end of that was about the passing game, about the offense. And let's dive into that now, because this is the most galling part of this. This Miami defense has been bottom of the league. I looked through all the numbers. I was like, is there one thing they do okay? Is there something that I could say, hey, watch out for this? And to be honest, the only thing I came up with, which I didn't think was a real legit threat going into this game, and it turned out to be a heck of a lot better than I thought. Miami's run defense is like 28th, 29th, whatever it is. But over the last 4 games, they had allowed only 110 a game. They held the Falcons with Bijan Robinson, who ran for 17,645 yards against the Bills. They held Atlanta at under 50 yards as a team. So the Miami run defense, Jordan Brooks, Tyrell Dodson, the two linebackers, they had been playing better. Granted, the bar was the floor, but they had been playing better the last 4 weeks. And this is just going to stack onto that because they held the Bills. Give me the number here quick.
I believe 87 total.
Yeah, and I know James Cook at 53, 87 total yards. Yeah, with 31 of that being Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a number of scrambles for sure. So this Miami defense that had been shredded by almost every run game in the NFL stopped the Bills. And as we've talked about many times, when you stop the run game with this team, the Bills don't have enough answers. And the only one that's been any sort of consistent left with a hamstring injury earlier in the second half. But as we pointed out, the Bills scored 0 points when they had him for the whole first half. So as Sean McDermott said right at the end there, the passing game is an important part of the offense. We should be able to move the ball with Josh, but it's got to be two working in concert with one another. In other words, yes, you have an MVP, but if you can't run the ball, even the Miami Dolphins, one of the worst defenses in the league, can shut down your passing game. The run game was a part of this, but when the Bills are in this spot where they can't run the ball, if they can't run the ball, they're done. Why are we even talking about a Super Bowl with this team right now? And I know it's overreacting to one game, but it's hard to get to championship contention when you see what this defense did to what we think is an offense, or at least what we know is an offense that's run by an MVP.
Once again, the Bills lose when Cook goes under 100 rushing yards. The only game that they won was week 1 against Baltimore, where
they should have lost.
Which they should have lost.
Right.
And again, I mean, we said it a little bit earlier, I can't take anything from that game. 1, because it was week 1, it was 9 weeks ago. 2, because it was just such a statistical anomaly, so weird of a game that I don't want to take like anything from that. But outside of that game, every game, you now have New England, where he put up 49, Atlanta, where he had 87, the best one of the 3, and now Miami, where he only had, 53? Is that what we said?
That's the number, yeah.
53. So once again, now I would have thought, like, if you would have asked me before the game or in the first quarter with how just depleted this Miami secondary is, like defensively, how they have injuries that they're of their own that they're dealing with.
Rasul Douglas did not play in this game. Yeah.
So I would have thought that if you're like, hey, James Cook is going to go for under 100 yards again, Miami's going to find a way to shut down the run game. If you would have told me that, I would have said, okay, I think, though, that if there is any chance that the Bills' offense, like the passing game, can have some success without James Cook running the ball, like if there's any shot of that happening, which we haven't seen yet this year and still haven't, but if you would have told me before that was going to happen, I would have said it's against Miami that they have a shot because of how bad the defense is in general to start, and 2, how depleted that secondary looks. Well, I would have been proven extremely wrong because the Bills' pass catchers just continue to not show up. And part of it, yes, is Josh Allen, but Josh Allen also made some Josh Allen plays. He also made some old Josh Allen plays, throwing a red zone interception in the end zone, fumbling the ball.
But to your point, I was just looking this up where you're talking about, we talked about how Bills' injuries were a factor on defense.
Yeah.
Here's what the Dolphins were missing in this game. Kader Kohu, who's one of their starting corners, more nickel than anything. He's on injured reserve. Mm-hmm. Storm Duck, who was supposed to be, great name, by the way, who's supposed to be in their plans in terms of a regular corner. Yep. He's on injured reserve. And then this week, Rasul Douglas, who is certainly one of their starting corners, he was doubtful, did not play. And then separate of the secondary, Chop Robinson, who's been really good as a rookie pass rusher, did not play. Mm-hmm. And they just traded away their best defensive player, Jalen Phillips.
Yep.
So I don't want to hear, and this is not on Sean McDermott or Josh Allen. Neither one used injuries as an excuse.
No.
Injuries were a factor, but they are way down on the list for this Bills loss.
No, and that's what I was getting at was if you would have told me beforehand that with all these injuries, I would have said, oh yeah, they're going to be fine then. But even with the injuries, you can't use injuries as an excuse. Like no one can use the injuries as an excuse because both sides were hurt, and the Bills' offense still wasn't able to put anything up, even with all the players that you just named not there. The Bills' offense, passing game, rushing game, even still wasn't able to just move at all. And now we heard in the press conference one of the media members asked about how even with the numbers, because Josh Allen did put up 306 yards, but as McDermott pointed out, Josh Allen could put up 500 yards. If you lose the game, it really doesn't matter, especially if you lose the game in this fashion. And as he said, it's really hard to win in the NFL when you turn the ball over 3 times.
So Bills had 207 of their total yards in the fourth quarter. They ended up with 376. So they had $170 in total yardage, total offensive yardage through 3 quarters in this game.
Yeah. That's just, you're not going to win the game. You can't consistently win a game in the fourth quarter. We saw them do it against Baltimore, but again, it sounds like a broken record. We can't really take anything from that Baltimore game because of how crazy it is. You're not going to win games in the fourth quarter in the NFL. They need to be won in the first, second, third, and fourth quarter.
The point of this discussion, of course, look, this loss is terrible, but how much of this is indicative of what the Bills are going to do down the stretch? And look, they look good against a pretty good Chiefs team, or a team we think is pretty good. So we know that's at least in the bag. But if this is in the bag too, what are the chances of the Bills going 3 games in January, and as it's looking right now, all 3 on the road, without throwing in one of these stinkers at some point? I mean, if the Miami Dolphins defense can put you into a game where you're only going to have 170 of total offense with most of your team healthy, I mean, God forbid someone on the offensive line goes down, because that group has been about as good as you can get all year long, and they've missed 1 game total so far this year.
Listen, we've seen teams turn it around in the second half of the year because we are about we're like right at that halfway point. With the 17 game schedules now, it's kind of a weird.
You can't really dive into a halfway point.
You can't really have an exact spot, but we're right around that halfway point now. So we've seen teams. Listen, the Bills are still 6-3. Like they still are 3 games above 500. We've seen teams turn around in the second half. We've seen a Bills team a few years ago have a struggle in the first half and turn it around and like go on a run in the playoffs. So it's possible. But you're now sitting a game and a half behind the Patriots because they just beat the Bucs, and you're sitting in the 6th spot in the wild card. The only reason you're still there, or at least a game above the 7th spot, is because the Jaguars put up a stinker in the fourth quarter and let the Texans come back and beat them. So at least you're a game up on the 7th spot, so you're securely, hopefully, in the playoffs. But like, we've seen teams do it. It's definitely still possible, but there's a rough schedule ahead. You got to play the Patriots again. You got to play the Eagles. You got to play the Bucs. We talked about the Steelers are still a team that could cause you problems, especially if this Dolphins team's causing you problems. So it's possible that they can turn it around, but the further we go in this season, the harder it's going to get.
Let's dig into that real quick here.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this. So New England is now 8-2. Okay, their next 3 are Jets at home. Jets have won 2 in a row for what it's worth, but Jets at home on Thursday too. Thursday can be a weird day.
Yeah.
So
can.
The way the Jets have played, the fact that it's still a young team in New England, experienced coach but young team, I won't totally dismiss New England losing that game.
Yeah.
But it's right. Jets at home, at Cincinnati, Giants at home.
Yeah.
So more likely when they play the Bills in Foxborough in December, they're going to be 11-2.
Yes.
Okay. To have any discussion about the division, Buffalo's got to win this game in Foxborough now. Absolutely, unequivocally.
Yes.
So assuming Buffalo wins that, New England is 11-3. They end with at Baltimore, at Jets, home for Dolphins. Now, you could lose the Baltimore game.
Yeah, by that point, they should be rolling a little bit more, you would think.
But 13-4 looks like the floor for New England. They would have to have a loss on the level of what the Bills did today to be anything worse than 13-4.
Yeah.
For the Bills to get to 13-4, let's flip that around. So they're 6-3 right now, as you pointed out.
Yep.
Their next 3, home for Tampa, at Houston, at Pittsburgh. There is not a walkover in the group there, especially with those last 2 being on the road.
I like that. I was going to say, I do like that Tampa's at home because that's probably the hardest of the 3. So I like that Tampa's at home. Houston, you would think it's definitely not a walkover. How they're playing right now, Houston's probably the easiest.
If you can't score 13 on Miami,
Houston,
what are you doing to Houston?
Exactly.
You know,
exactly. And then same thing with Pittsburgh's defense. Pittsburgh defense pretty much runs that team, and you're in Pittsburgh. I mean, none of those games. The Bills could easily lose all 3 of those. To be honest with you,
let's play the game then. If I told you Buffalo go 2-1 with those 3, you'd probably sign up for it if you're a Bills fan, right? Like just sign for it without even playing the games.
Yeah.
All right, so that makes Buffalo 8-4. Okay. You're winning the New England game because we have to give you that. So that's 9-4, right? Cincinnati at home was actually before that, so we'll give them that one too. So that's 10-4. Browns on the road, Eagles, Jets at home. So what we've determined here is that to even have a sniff the Bills got to beat Philadelphia at home.
Yeah.
And even then, if you're 2-1 in your next 3, you're just tied with New England, and New England's got to lose a division game for you to have a shot at the tiebreaker.
Yep.
Even if you split,
Yep.
you've now lost a second division game.
Yep.
So if New England doesn't lose to Miami or the Jets,
which
right.
I would put good money on the fact that they don't.
They will not. They do. They've beaten Miami. I think they got the Jets twice, and they've beaten Miami.
Now, listen, as much as I do think that this is the Bills losing today, Miami did some things well. Miami looked better today. They looked better than they have. And I mean, they're like you pointed out the fact that their run defense is on the up. They just shut down the Falcons. Now they shut down James Cook, and James Cook, Bijan Robinson, arguably two of the top running backs in the league. I won't say best, but two of the top running backs in the league.
Bijan probably is the best. So
Bijan probably is. And we had a conversation a few weeks ago about where we rank James Cook. He's definitely in the top 10, right outside of my top 5, but definitely in the top 10. So you look at this Miami team, as much as it was the Bills losing today and just turnovers and offense not being able to do anything and just lack of everything, Miami does look decent. I have more confidence in Miami upsetting. Are those in Miami and in New York?
Here's the problem.
Are they both in New England?
No. So the Patriots still have to play the Jets twice. They've got the home game this week. The game in New York is the second last game of the season. Here's the problem with hoping Miami bails you out like Miami bailed New England out today. They play the Dolphins the last week of the season in Foxborough. So
no shot.
The way it works not no shot, but the way it works for guys when your season's over, one of the things you want to do in that last game is not get hurt, because if you get hurt, instead of going on vacation after that game's over, you go to rehab. So in addition, whatever the Dolphins, might suffer injury-wise between now and then, those guys are all going to be gone. Guys who might have come back for week 15, 16, 17 are probably not going to bother, because why would you want to get them injured again? So the game's in Foxborough.
In that case scenario, you're almost rooting for the Dolphins to stay relevant until week 18, which is
not impossible. Their next 3 are very winnable, yes.
But not something that any Bills fan wants to be rooting for.
I'm not going to get out Miami's schedule. If they get to like 7 and 7.
That's way too deep.
Exactly.
We're going way too deep into the rabbit hole with that one.
But yeah, the bottom line is that the Bills very likely lost the division today.
Maybe not today, but they set themselves up to they set themselves up to easily lose it. I think you win today, and even if New England wins, you're still right there. So I don't know if I can say confidently that they lost it yet, but I can definitely say that this is the closest they've been to losing it in, what's it been, 4 years that they've won it in a row?
5 in a row.
5 in a row. Yeah. So in the past 5 years, this is the closest that they've been to losing it.
The margin for error is down to very little. Yes. And to be honest, like we laid out, you need New England to lose to somebody you wouldn't expect them to. And I think that's still on the table because it's Drake May, because the Patriots are brand new as a team to figuring this all out. Again, the head coach is not, but the team, I think, is in general. Here's the thought I had, by the way, when we were talking about the Patriots facing Miami and what they could do. Which passing offense is more intimidating right now? Drake May with Stephon Diggs and everybody's cast-offs, or Josh Allen with what this offense is? And there's only one right answer. There's really not a debate right now.
No, there isn't.
It's Drake May.
It's Drake May. Drake May looks very a very, very good quarterback.
We talked about the Dolphins shutting down the run game, which you would think in September, if you had told me the Dolphins would play the Patriots, take the run game away, I'd be like, Miami's going to be in that, because what is Drake May going to do without a run game?
Yeah.
He's been playing around a run game all year. He's totally fine with that. Stephon Diggs is not great, but he's more productive than anybody the Bills have.
And he looked great against Buffalo.
Yeah. Couple more comments here. The Duder, maybe one day they will invest in the wide receiver position like other teams. And again, Thad Brown 7 on X, if you want to get into this. Ken Wazolowski, this is a good one. At Alpine Ken, there is a recipe to beat the Bills. Force us to abandon the run. It's pretty simple. We've been talking about that since week 1.
Yeah.
That's what the problem is here. All right. Well, we got a few minutes left here before we're done. We have, I think, tarred and feathered Buffalo quite a bit. What is the ray of light here? What is the encouragement? What is the thing that you want to hold on to as a Bills fan going forward?
The fact that they beat the Chiefs last week. That's
a good answer.
That's all I got. That's it, because there is today's game, there's no ray of light. Like if the Bills had lost last week, even if it was a good game, let's say it's 27-28 Bills lose, and it's a great game, and they look as good as their offense did last week against the Chiefs, but they end up losing, and then they lose, same exact situation as happens today. I'm like, it's done. It's over because you're now on 4 straight losses and you prove that you can't beat the top
4 out of
teams.
5. We're forgetting about the Carolina game. 4 out of 5.
Yes,
Yeah.
you're right. 4 out of 5 losses. You've proven that even when you play your best, you can't beat the Chiefs, and there's no hope. But the fact that they were able to come out on top against Kansas City leaves me with just a little bit that maybe this was just a fluke. Maybe it was just a fluke game, but it doesn't seem likely.
The other problem is that right now, the Bills do not have a win over a current playoff team. As it stands right this second, the Chiefs are not in the playoffs because they're 5-4.
Which is crazy because they've beaten Baltimore and the Chiefs.
Yeah. And because the Chiefs lost to the Jags.
Shows you how weird this year has been.
Because of that, the Chiefs are the 8th seed right now. So they're not a playoff team right now.
Jeez.
For me, the fluke thing is number 1. Number 2, Josh Allen is still healthy. James Cook is still healthy. The offensive line is still healthy. We've seen that group be able to dictate games, even against a team like the Chiefs that we think is upper echelon.
Mm-hmm.
There still is plenty of time left to, I don't know about fix. Fix is going to be the wrong word. You got to make this work the best you can with what you got. The other part of it is, who is really your concern for taking a wild card spot for the Bills? In other words, if the Bills still play like we think they're going to play most of the rest of the year, this is not a 9-8 team.
Yeah.
If this is a 9-8 team, we have a whole different discussion to have. So if this is a 10-11 win team like we think they're going to be, do you think Jacksonville's going to win 11 games after blowing a game at home or on the road to Houston today? You know, is Pittsburgh and Baltimore both making the playoffs? I don't think so. Not the Bengals. So who's taking that spot? The point is that the Bills are going to be in the dance. Their road is going to be pretty difficult because it's probably going to be 3 road games.
Yeah.
But they're still going to have a chance. And what we've seen against the Chiefs tells me that at least in one game, in 1 week, they can go toe-to-toe with anybody. Even the Ravens game, because the Ravens were pretty healthy in that game. They said, it was a fluky game.
That
but
was week 1, yeah.
They still won it.
Yeah.
They still won the game. So, like I said, it is in the bag for the Bills to win one of those games. The thing I sit here and say that really throws a pall on any idea of the Bills going to the Super Bowl is that doing it 3 times in a row seems
tough.
Really difficult right now.
Yeah. And then what's the point of going to the Super Bowl if you're not going to win the Super Bowl? So now you have 4 games in a row.
Right. Because they're not. I guess they're still in the bye discussion, but it would take probably running the table from here to even talk about that right now.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for me and Caleb. Obviously, this was not what the Bills needed in a lot of ways. There will be more on BKL Nightly tomorrow. We will hear more from the coaches and the head coach, coordinators, everybody. The Bills fall to 6-3. There's a home game against Tampa next week. That game will not be any sort of walk in the park either. But there are still more games. There's still more time. There will still be more opportunity for the Bills to turn this around. Bills fans, hope you won your fantasy game this week because you're not going to enjoy the talk about this for the next 7 days. For Caleb Carr, I'm Thad Brown. Thanks very much for watching the BKL Nightly Game Day Recap. We will see you again later on this week.
Get the Rochester First streaming app today for everything you love from News 8 On Demand, plus exclusive shows you won't see anywhere else. Search ROC and download for free on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV.